We're continuing our conversation about the 5 trauma responses and how they can be used to cause harm in others, yourself, or in a wider social context. So when we're talking about fight, a lot of people recognize the harm that fight could cause, but they go, well, what would flight cause? Why would that be a useful trauma response for a social control method? Well, we have to remember that flight is characterized by avoidance. If you have the bear in the woods again, you're running away from the bear in the woods. That's a good thing. That's healthy. That's a normal way to respond to an adverse event. But in social complexity, we can end up in situations where, for example, you are now avoiding things that are part of a normal life. So, for example, you are perhaps avoiding a conversation that is uncomfortable that you need to have in order to sustain a relationship with your partner or spouse, right? And so you're in a situation where the avoidance of that, by fleeing that bad emotion that's happening every time you potentially have a conflict, you are now not addressing issues you need to. Or you're panicking every time you go and try to make a phone call to the doctor, so you're neglecting your health and you are otherwise in a state where you are avoiding things that must be done. On a wider social scale, this makes sense as well, because if the trauma that is being invoked in you is causing you to feel this kind of overwhelm, you are going to shut down and not engage in things that you probably should. You're not going to engage in politics. You're not going to engage in activism. You're not going to engage in anything that might be deemed conflict because you have become avoidant. You are avoiding conflict. You are avoiding these things that feel bad and wrong. And so in many ways, you are spending time not doing things that potentially would help you save yourself or others. And that benefits any kind of propaganda machine or regime that's trying to keep people doing certain things. You not engaging allows them to have a path forward. You over engaging when you haven't thought it through with anger allows them to find ways to spread discord and chaos that then can be used to leverage their own opinions and desires in this particular scheme. So this is how these things play out. They all play in together, and obviously the idea that everyone is going to be in a single narrow type of trauma response is kind of simplified, right? Most people are going to have different trauma responses to different things. They're going to have different trauma responses to different contexts, but this is kind of an overview of how they can be used in a way to both have you have harm in your regular life outside of the traumatic event, and how they can be used to manipulate you. Because if you keep being overwhelmed by all the awful things in the world, in this instance, you are fleeing away. You are disengaging from the things that you could be doing to help yourself. It's a kind of neglect that can be used to make sure that you're not actually stopping people from doing the kind of manipulative shit they want to do in society.